All right, I'm calling to order the meeting of the advisory committee on Tuesday, January 21st, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. We have on our agenda tonight our Veterans Agent budget, the Agricultural Commission budget, the Historical Commission budget, and then the Police Public Safety Building dispatch and emergency management budgets. So, first up, we'll speak with Mr. DeGraw, our Veterans Agent. Come on up.
Okay.
Thanks for being here.
All right.
So, the request that we have for FY 2021.
Hopefully it's the same as what I have.
Yeah, so why don't you tell me what you have, what you have for your request?
All right, my request was, I dropped off advertising, office supplies, and added in, instead of the $500 we use for Veterans Day brunch, when it was at the church, it was all volunteers and donated food.
Yeah.
Now it's at the winery, so
Yeah.
the cost has gone up. So that's why I put in for the 2,000. That's what the committee that runs the brunch suggested.
So we have, on our request, we have 1,500. Is
Yeah,
that-
see, that's that's the difference. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So should it be 2,000?
So the paper he has 5,000, oh, sorry, 2,000.
Right. Yes, I did one of these for 15, and then Linda came back and after she met with the committee and said 15 might not be enough.
Okay,
I'm a little confused here. Can we just read off what's requested so I know that it's the same as what I've got? Or-
Okay. Veterans benefits 3,600.
Yeah,
36,000.
36,000.
I know, I got it.
And what I
That's the point.
requested, it should say 2,000.
oh, okay.
All right. If the committee would like, they could, I didn't use all my veterans benefits. It was probably somewhere around about $7,000 I didn't have to use for benefits.
So you're putting that line in this year is what, 27,000?
2,000.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, that's, let me just show you.
Yeah.
So what's the
I'm
total?
having trouble understanding.
Yeah.
We should just start at the top.
Yeah, we'll start at the top. So, all right,
Okay.
so
Aside from my
I'll
glasses.
read through what I have and you
Okay.
tell me what's.
Yes.
Okay.
So for wages, we have $5,277.50.
Whatever that,
Right.
yep.
Right, that's what everybody has. Then there's no request for advertising, no request for office supplies, $50 for dues,
Okay.
$36,000 for veterans benefits.
Right.
All right.
And then the sheet we have has a $1,500
Right.
request for
Which is in
meetings,
the old sheet.
and
It
it
should be 2.
2,000.
Oh, that's what I request.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Now, when I looked, you were sort of alluding to this, but when I looked at the run rate for the veterans benefits
Mhm.
line, 5770,
Mhm.
it looked like you were on pace to not use up the full
Correct.
$36,000.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I think we should try to reduce that line to whatever you think is a realistic number for the year.
I would say, to be safe, I think we can reduce that down to about 32 or 33.
Okay.
I would say 33. It's running, like, if you kept it, the pace would be,
Yeah,
in between 32 and 33, so.
And that's not without any additional veterans, maybe one.
Okay. All right,
So the total,
so if we change that to 33 and increase the,
the 1,500 to 2K.
increase that to 2K,
We increased it $500.
yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know the total in much, but do you have?
$40,327.50.
Okay.
Was it 40,301?
327.50.
And just for anybody who might be watching, can you just describe the brunch that was up at the winery and what that event is all about?
Well, I was involved, but I wasn't involved as much as the committee was involved. I think there was about 120 or 30 guests and veterans. The food was supplied by the winery,
Yep.
as far as I know. It's
But it was a big turnout.
big, oh yeah,
There's a
the
lot of
place was,
families, yeah.
it was full, packed, yes. Yep.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions? Anybody questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
for
next
coming.
year.
See you next year.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. For all of us.
Stays cold like this, you never know.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Connor Nagel from the Agricultural Commission. Hi. This is first time here, right?
Yes.
Taking over for Teresa.
That's right.
Awesome. Let me just take a second to turn. This is budget number 179. All right, so I think in some of the sheets that we might have gotten earlier, that amount was left as a blank, but you're requesting $1,746. Is that right?
Yes, the same as the last couple of years. We're gaining a long list of ideas, and some board members actually get some traction going, but we're not going to ask for any more following the lead that was given from town hall.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the money's been spent this past year and how you anticipate spending
Sure.
it?
In the last year, we have purchased some agricultural books and promoting those through the library. Kids' books as well as adults' books, how to start homestead farming, small farming. We purchased a CSA from World Farmers on the Lancaster-Bolton town line there, and promoted that to get some notoriety for the AgCom by doing a weekly raffle for the 16 weeks of their CSA, entering at the Backyard Bolton Farmers Markets or through our Facebook page to try and build up some support for that one as well. We have an annual membership of Central Mass Grown, which helps us connect with other agricultural commissions throughout the state, with Central Mass Grown themselves and other partners like that to find some opportunities. And we were part of a workshop series with the Sudbury Valley Trust and through the conservation agent here that were hosted in the Houghton Building, a series of 4 lectures that we contributed to.
Okay.
We sponsor the Rare Breeds tent at the Bolton Fair for the last few years, as we did that again. So anything to promote agriculture in the town and keep people connected.
One thing I just wanted to point out, it looks like from the ledger we got in December, maybe you had, a lot of the money you're probably describing was FY19 money. So my guess is that a lot of your FY20 money gets spent in the summer and into this.
Yeah, so I mean, agriculture sort of runs, if you like, from April
Yeah.
to October, which doesn't help with the fiscal year, but
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So you anticipate spending the 1746 that you have by the end of this year? And
Yes,
then-
some of that I believe is spent but not reimbursed yet, not submitted yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
The first part of that, you said you bought books for
Yeah.
the library?
Yes.
So these are hardcover or pamphlets or?
No hard copy books, agricultural books that were donated to the library and promoted by us so that people know they're there and have a resource
Oh.
to agriculture.
Just too bad the library can't buy the books? Book budget?
Well, the library has the same challenging resources as they do, so I
You
think there's
said it's
another
too bad.
organization that buys books for them as well, but I can't remember which one it is.
They've done this
Yeah.
for a while.
Do you happen to know how much you spent on books?
Just under $200.
That's a lot.
We have a long list of books that we're working through.
Oh, okay, so you've got a plan and.
Yes.
My point is I would like to know what our town book budget is. That's all. Just, being on the advisory board would be nice to know.
Do you know whether roughly it's a $200 per year plan? Like
Yes, that is our target, yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So essentially, when we see the library's book budget, it's that plus the 200 from ag. And the only other money that I'm aware of is not from another town committee. It's from like a Friends of sort of organization, which.
And, and that's what they get a lot of money from the book sale, believe it or not.
Yeah.
That's been very.
And our books are very specifically agricultural related.
Does anybody else have any questions? No? Well, thanks for doing this for the first time.
And a good precedent.
Is there a motion to approve the ag?
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, 1746, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
And next up, the Historical Commission,
Which is $6.91.
691.
Hey, you're running a little early, Martha's not here yet,
Oh,
but we can go ahead.
Usually running early is a good thing, but if we're
It's posted so specifically.
Yeah.
Notchka, tell us whoever put the numbers on our pages, I owe them a great deal, and I can find stuff faster now. It's really brilliant,
Second that. Yours are the inside.
absolutely brilliant.
You don't see it.
Might have been me.
I don't think 690.
I do. Maybe it's right there.
No, that's 692.
Oh,
No, I don't have it.
is that it?
Here it, well, it isn't marked after I said that, it's just the page before 600.
Oh, yeah.
She missed a page, but still a brilliant idea.
Isn't it funny how it was coincidentally the same?
Oops,
Yeah.
spoke too soon.
So I guess while we're waiting for Martha, do you have the budget with you? We can make sure we're working off the same numbers.
Always a good thing to check.
Yeah.
Well, that's sure, there it is.
Didn't come with any paper.
Over here.
Yeah, it looks like
So
it.
there's your actual last year.
Yep.
And there you go.
Yep.
Was that the budget request or the budget for the current year?
The budget request for FY 2021.
It's the same as what it was for the
Yeah,
prior
you
year.
haven't
Yes.
added anything to it.
No adds, subtracts.
Oh, yeah, same thing.
Okay.
Yes, it was,
So,
This is 21,
What happened in 2019?
29.
Oh, we should wait for more.
Look down to 5,400.
Well, that's what I meant when I said what happened.
you have-
Oh, yeah, but look at 5,200. I think there were some numbers that got moved around there.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
Hmm.
Wow.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it looks like maybe some of the purchase of services for office and supplies.
Well, we did do a shift. We had, up till recently, we had been spending a lot of money on having cemetery work done. We hired an outside consultant. And they came in and they did a relatively small amount of work for a relatively large number of dollars. So to try to save some money and be able to use it for other purposes, Martha and I actually went up to a training course in Gloucester And we learned how to do some of the basic stuff, like how to reset stones and all this sort of stuff. So we put it to work. For example, this past fall, we worked for a few hours with the commission members, and we reset actually a fair number of stones in Pan Cemetery. We would have spent probably $1,000 for that work. It cost $20 per stone. So it was a huge savings. So a lot of that money that we were formerly spending on services got reprogrammed, and we were able to use some of the money we had otherwise were going to spend on services for other things, like, for example, the plaque and the monument on Wilder Road culvert that we hadn't planned to do, but we freed up some money to be able to do that, so we were able to cover that within our budget.
Right.
So for this year so far, FY20, it looks like you've only spent about $200.
That's kind of typical. We usually wind up spending money early in the year, early to mid-year, as opposed to, late the prior year.
So, oh wait, so you're expecting that between now and
And
the
July,
end
and
of
the end of
June?
June,
Yeah.
we'll expend that.
And
Yes.
in terms
We
of,
haven't even begun our formal work on a new National Register Historic District. And that will involve finding out if our consultant is available and starting that multi-year project.
all right, so I think for me, it would be helpful if we just started at the top and went down in terms of
The request.
the request and how you think it'll be spent.
We, at the time, we were supposed to start, I'm just wondering, we said we'd wait for Martha, and now we're gonna start at the top.
We're 2 minutes, we'll give.
650?
I don't know how to write these clocks.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good,
I think
actually.
she's got more like 3.5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. 5 according to the resume.
You're using your phone, that's the most accurate.
Well, why don't you tell us some fun stories while we wait for Mark?
How was the course in Gloucester?
Fun, actually, that was,
Who did
boy,
it?
it was done by a small group. I forget the name of the group, but they were basically a bunch of people who were trying to restore the cemetery. So what they did was they concocted a deal where they would, in order to get some free labor, basically, to help them get their work done, they hired in an outside consultant to do a course. So we paid a modest amount for a fee for the course, and spent 2 of the hottest days in July I've ever spent in my life working outside. It was unbelievably hot. But we got a lot done, and a couple of things they did were really, really interesting. They brought in a tripod. They had this big stone that was taller than this room that had been knocked over. And on the second day, they brought in a tripod and all this stuff, and with nothing but basically hand tools, put the thing back together again. It was remarkable.
We asked for some stories because we got
We're,
done a
we're,
little
we're,
early.
we're, fill-
Sorry,
we're filling in.
It looks like I'm late, but I think I'm.
No,
You're
right
right on
We're
time.
just on time. Everything
Sorry.
else is early.
We get a little fast.
I was just telling the story.
That
about-
workshop was incredible.
Who offered it up there? Oh, was it-
Remember who it was?
No, but I could let you know if you
Oh,
wanna know. It was in
yeah.
Gloucester,
Yeah.
and it's a group that travels around and does this for historical and cemetery commissions.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Thank you for
doing that.
Very much.
Oh, it was a pleasure, even though we had to drive up both days.
Hey, next time let me know, I'll drive you out. I grew up in Gloucester,
It was
another way
hot,
backwards. Oh, yeah.
and it rained,
Well, I
but
could
it was
have taken
great.
you to the beach after. for a while.
Close them down in situ.
We were gonna go through just line by line and have you walk us through the amounts requested and how you expected them to be spent.
Right?
Yep.
Did Alice give you copies, right?
We all have copies.
Yep.
There's one.
Yeah, so this is a level funded budget, and we're hoping to get a new historic district started. It would be the East Bolton or the East End district. It has about half the resources that the Pan did, and the Pan took 8.5 years. We're hoping that this won't take half that long. And outside of supplies, which have gone down since we don't have these blue ribbon restorers of cemeteries working anymore, we've decided that we can do some of those now that we've been to the workshop. Under the the biggest expense, as I envision it, would be our preservation consultant is Ann Forbes, and she lives in Acton, And what we did with the Pan District was give her, I think, 3 payments to get started in the middle and then the final. A district has a fixed cost of $10,000. The first district was a grant that was paid half by funds from the town meeting voted and half by the grant from Massachusetts Historical Commission. So when we wanted Pan done, we figured it would take a fair amount of time and we would take time doing it, and so we paid her in 3 installments.
Okay.
And that would probably be our largest, well, it would definitely be our largest expenditure if we get that started. She's just had both knees replaced and she's raring to go.
So the 3,400 is roughly a third of what you think would be a 3-year
Right,
project with her?
yeah, right, because it, it's like 330,
Yeah.
3,030, 330, you know how to divide 10 by 3. So, and we have always, ever since Susie Becker's reign and Linda Engelman's being chairman, haven't been really tied to keeping services and supplies separate. So if we needed more supplies than services, we take from a line item to another line item. So that would be our biggest expenditure. Right now, we're looking for 2 new members, and that's kind of a priority. Well, it is a priority, and we have some nibbles on people that are interested in joining, but I see that as our biggest expenditure. We bought replacement bollards for the ones that were broken this past year. That was a big expense. We were lucky to get them to match the ones that we had.
It looks like the actuals for both postage and books have been 0 for a few years.
Yeah, we haven't bought a lot of books. We used to keep our library at the Historical Society, and now it's at the public library, and we haven't really bought a lot of books. In fact, they returned some that were duplicates
Okay.
that had apparently been purchased, not by us, obviously, but, and I'm searching other libraries who might take those historic books. They're excellent books, but they didn't need 2 copies. They don't have the room at the library for 2 copies of them.
Yeah.
So we have not spent a lot on books, and postage is pretty incidental too. Dues, people are always asking for money. A lot of federal groups and local groups, Freedom's Way, National Parks, Recreation Heritage Trust. We do what we can, but we realize, we can't make up for what the federal government has withdrawn from those efforts.
I'm wondering if you don't anticipate having anything beyond an incidental postage expense, and if it looks like books is something you're not spending money on, if we could zero those out, and if you did need to spend money on postage, you probably have a little bit of wiggle room in the supplies line if you need a few stamps or to mail something.
That would seem reasonable to me. I defer to my co-chairman and my treasurer. I mean, it's just that we've had 6250, except I think it was reduced maybe 2 years ago, for quite a while, and it really started when we put the bollards in. The first 1,000 came from the country covered,
Yeah.
and then the town did the rest. They're so exposed out there, and most of the accidents are hit and run that injure them. And that means that unless we glue them together or, make them look fairly respectable, they really can't be put back together. So we won't be getting any more bollards unless there's a terrible accident. Hopefully it would be reported, and then it would be the fault of the people who are going over there. I mean, they're going east and they're running over and hitting the wall at Pan Cemetery. And I would like to get an estimate on fixing the wall, because there was an accident 2 years ago that actually displaced the huge top, and I can't expect DPW to do that. at least if we had an estimate of what it would cost, it seemed to me that if we had somebody with a front loader like Frank Giotto Jr., it could be put in, but DPW has their own projects that they do,
Does the town carry insurance that would cover that?
hit and run.
That, it would be a question, I mean, we carry a big umbrella policy and a whole bunch of other coverages, but Don Lowe would be the person who knows exactly what might apply.
The town has helped in the past with at least one of those accidents. And the others, we were lucky enough to know who the person who damaged, for example, the memorial there at 85 and Main Street. They slipped on ice that drains out of the country covered property, pools at the gas station, and hit the flag post there at the, which is going to go away in complete streets. You know, the island.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know, I mean, you know, we like the level budget. If, I personally would not be against that.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I'm suggesting it is, it seems like it's still, so it would drop down to a total of 6,150,
Yes,
and that seems like it's within what you've actually
a
spent.
nice gesture, and I know that things are tight this year.
So is that a yes from you, or?
It's a yes from me, I,
Roger is nodding.
6,150 would be
Roger.
the requested budget for 21, right?
Pardon me?
6,150 would be the requested.
right,
The tree that was damaged in the work at the corner will be replaced by the town, not by the
which tree is that, Alice?
the one in front of 708.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a different concern, you know, we've
Yeah,
had some
so that
things that
comes-
happened.
A whole different wallet.
Okay,
We had town trees, you know, we don't have a tree replacement program anymore because they didn't want that $3,000 for trees. And during the Mass Works project, Director Lynch had assured us that those trees, at least the one at 713, would be protected. And both of them lost 1/2 of their root bed, which if they die in 2 years, those trees have to be replaced. I mean, they're big sweet gum trees,
They've been there for a number of years now.
and they were paid for by the tree replacement program. And Director Lynch, you know, couldn't stand there every day to make sure things were done.
but
And
he's aware of what happened.
yeah, I reported
no.
it to him.
By the end of the fall, it was looking very bad.
But we wouldn't expect to cover that out of our budget.
Right.
Yeah, I
And there
mean,
again, the contractor doing the work might have insurance.
Yeah.
we were assured that those trees would be protected, particularly the one at 713 was supposed to have a fence around it.
What kind of trees are?
Sweet gum. They haven't started putting out seeds, which probably means most people won't like them after they do put out seeds. They are very ornamental, very rough seed pods that
Yeah.
are used a lot for arts and crafts things.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a note to follow up with our town administrator just about the possibility of insurance claims.
Yeah,
These
because
things.
that shouldn't have happened on that, because even Director Lynch was shocked
Would
when
that be a job for the liaisons to reach out to them?
Yeah, we can,
Ask him?
There is a general issue of like signs getting knocked over and walls getting broken down and
Bollards
and bollards
getting
getting broken. And typically what happens is it's a hit and run, you know,
Sure.
and so then we're left with a pile of stuff. What do you do? You know, so up to now, for example, we've spent money out of our own budget to try to replace some of this stuff, but it's hard because you can't plan for that.
Right.
You know, and if it's something that could be recovered through insurance, that'd be great. It may be too small to warrant that, I don't know. I mean,
Right.
you know, there's always this complexities, but there ought to be, if it isn't covered by insurance, it ought to be covered by a small self-insurance pool that we can, you know, get stuff repaired, like a broken sign or something. It shouldn't necessarily have to come out of individual budgets, so.
one of the most long-standing wall damages is there in the state property at Sugar Road and the southbound off-ramps. There's been a hole in that wall for, I would think, almost 10 years. And I went up to see if I could fill it. I mean, it wouldn't take a lot of DPW time to just pile those rocks up. That wall was asked for by the commission when they relocated the intersection. And it looks horrible. You come into Bolton, and there's the nice Bolton sign from EDC, right? And here's our Economic Development Committee, yeah. And here's this hole in the wall. All the rocks are there in the back of it.
That's been repaired a couple of times before.
Not, yeah, but not that particular one. Other damage from plows, usually. It was on the northbound, the westbound side of Sugar. It was the one on that side, and they did repair that. But I would be happy to, contact the state historical commission so that the people, so here it could be fixed. Because that's the state's responsibility, and they
Okay.
made, when the one on the other side was repaired, the state made the town pay half.
So do you think that there's any possibility that you could get state money for this or no?
Well, maybe they could
Yeah.
help. I mean, why haven't they replaced it?
Yeah.
I think to a certain degree, we don't know enough of whether that's a practice and you have to go to them and report it. Or
Well, we'd certainly have to let them
DPW doesn't- yeah,
know
so-
if we wanted to replace it.
So maybe just a little research to find out when this happens, what are your expectations of the town to be made whole on this stuff? Because we shouldn't be paying for your,
They probably would make the town pay half, and they might pay half. But I wouldn't mind, as chairman, the historical commission could at least write a letter and say, we're planning on this. Is there any way you can help bear some of the cost? It shouldn't be a huge project. The stones are
Start.
right in back.
well, the first thing to do is to find who are the players. If there are any.
And how much?
Well, you mean not the people who did it, but the people who
Yeah.
could do it.
Yeah, could do it, who are responsible for seeing that stuff is repaired.
It's probably
Yeah.
more of a DPW, DOT thing than
Well,
the historic
start
commission,
talking
because it's
with
It,
Joe
it's,
Lynch.
it's in areas that they both work on and around, and I'm sure there's some standing agreement with who's responsible for what, that we're not necessarily privy to.
Right.
But I think Joe would probably, certainly be.
He could certainly point you in the right direction or say, we don't
Yeah.
know, let's find out.
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
Okay. Well, I can mention that too when I talk to our town administrator. All right, so do we want to vote on this?
Sure do.
All right, so entertaining a motion to approve the budget at $6,150.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very
No
much.
opposed. Thank you all for coming in. Thanks a lot. All right, bye-bye. Okay.
Have a nice night.
All right, thanks for coming.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes, good evening.
It's up to you whether it's easier to start with the building or the department budget, whatever.
How about the emergency management first?
All right, yeah, that is
really
easy one. All right, so we're gonna go to number 291.
Let's set up real quick. Well, that's an easy one, because there's only one item on that, and that's for the code red.
Yep.
And that's the reverse call back to whoever we want. We can do the whole town, select portions of the town, but that's a one-time fee. From what I gather from Dawn, that's gonna be the price for as long as we have it.
Oh.
There should be no change, possibly lower, possibly, but it shouldn't go higher. It should stay the same for as long as we have it.
And is that, do you know whether that's like procured all through the regional dispatch at all? Is that?
No, that's
okay.
Dawn, that comes, Dawn takes care of that.
Okay. All right, so that should not increase and maybe potentially will decrease.
Why
Okay,
don't you keep their wages and supplies on?
I think those will just drop off because they've been zeroed out for a certain number of years.
Well, last year we asked for CERT money, the
Yeah,
citizen emergency, and we
Oh,
had presented a
Oh,
budget,
that's right,
and it was decided not to.
that's
So
right.
That's why those are there.
So do you have a feeling about whether we should just keep them in there for a little while, or? Those-
Yes,
Yeah.
possibly with the fire chief on board now, he may want to.
Renew that request.
Yeah, that-
That's okay.
Okay, yeah, so then that makes sense to keep them. All right, so for $3,900, is there a motion to approve emergency management? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
The next easy one is the dispatch, $299. I believe, on the figure we have of 189, it's gone up to 213, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that one is not set in stone yet. I have a finance committee meeting the 29th, so I'll know more then.
29th of January. Okay, so
So we're hoping it's going down.
can you just remind me again, it's 213?
497?
You know what, I didn't even write it down because it's not gonna be that.
Okay, all right, so
So, yeah.
we'll table this one.
But that one's pretty much, our hands are tied. It's whatever the assessment is.
It's whatever the dispatch
From
center
the-
comes up with, yeah.
That was-
So he won't have to be here when we
Yeah,
vote on that.
you're fine with us considering that without,
Yep.
okay. All right,
What's next?
want to do 200, the building?
Sure. Actually, it's a little lower than last year. It's always good.
Yeah.
So Lorraine will go over everything, but pretty much level funded, no capital requests. The building's holding up pretty much. We've had a few water leaks, but nothing major has had to be repaired.
You had sent me a couple of questions.
Yeah, but I think maybe what we could do, since, I know it's just his first time going through this, it might just be helpful to walk through every line item and just remind us what's covered.
Of course, we can start with 5,200, which is our purchase of services, which is all our contracts and service agreements. That pretty much stayed the same. We had a couple of minor adjustments possibly, but it came down a tad.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna follow your budget, what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Now, the heating, of course, we're coming, if you look at our ledger now, we're almost to the end of our heating budget, which was totally unexpected. So, and I know that the superintendent of highways, he had gone out to bid, he goes out to bid every fiscal year for fuel costs. So, we don't have any control of that. He chooses the vendor, and right now, the bills are what they are.
Okay.
Let's see,
Do you think that your request is gonna be sufficient for FY '21?
well, I don't know, at times you don't like us overestimating, and you
yeah.
like us to maybe come to you at some point in time if we feel, standard practice coming, into the last quarter of each fiscal year. That one, the accounting, as of December, and plus I just had 2 fuel bills come in, so I'm down to just probably, with fuel, heating, I have $621.27 left as of, I just entered 2 bills that came in on the 11th. So, yeah, so with that one definitely would be an overdraft. But then again, I don't know what the electricity would be, and that seems to be running, okay. When I run the numbers of National Grid to the end of the fiscal year, I have actually 6 months of electric bills at $3,600 each. So that's probably going to come in around 19. So you're going to see a deficit in both of the utilities on that side. However, when we get down further into our budget, we did have a decrease in software support.
Right.
Which came up. So there's a I look at that into the future of the end of the fiscal year that they're going to offset, but the end of the budget should support any deficits.
Do you know why the?
Yeah, yes, I do. When we came to meet in fiscal year 20, back in January of 2019, our AmbuPro bill for software support, we're up there close to almost $5,000 to $7,000, and that has to do with the EMS ambulance, their ambulance billing protocols, everything that they have to do over there on the fire EMS side. In June of this year, the fire chiefs in the regional that are a part of Devon's had met, and they're all using the same protocols. So everything with this company, AmbuPro, they've combined it all. And now we went from that 50, almost $7,000 down to $1,920 is our share. So that was a tremendous savings.
Devon's was paying for some departments and not all departments.
And we were
one
a
of the
single
nots.
user.
So
But that's a
we've
good
combined.
So this is the
with-
software support one?
Yes, yes. We jumped down there based upon, had asked why.
Well, my suggestion would be let's make it more realistic and put the money where it needs to
Yes.
be and take it out of software support since it's come down so much.
I think it's already
Well,
been.
this is
already
what
in there.
Yeah, I've kind of absorbed that into a maintenance line because I have some things going on in the maintenance line item,
So
even
that's
though
already out of there,
Oh,
right?
yeah, it is, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
our maintenance last year, we had budgeted for an attic unit, an air conditioning unit. That was a $15,000 budget item that we put into our into the maintenance. But I have IT work that needs to be done. So I kind of floated that in maintenance over to the IT project, bringing down the software. And now we have a heating deficit. So we're kind of like juggling
Yeah,
a little
because
bit here.
when I look at your maintenance spend as of the end of December, that looked like it might end up with a little bit of extra at the end of the year, but maybe there's stuff you haven't done
We
yet.
haven't, we're
Yeah.
still 6 months out that we haven't coordinated yet
Okay.
with our plans. So,
Okay, so,
with the heat, I don't know where you want to go with that. The year prior, we were okay, and then,
yeah,
let me look.
the actuals have been
Wait,
A little, they were a little
high
up,
and then low, I mean, going
so they're
from,
inconsistent.
I feel like people might have different feelings about it, but I wanna make sure that your bottom line number is not underfunded, but if there's some fluctuation in heating and electric throughout the course of the year, we can take a look at it again next year and see whether they should be adjusted, but I would personally wanna get like 2 years of run. So maybe leave them as they are now, and if you need to make a request at the end of the year, we can do that.
Which has always been,
Yeah.
the philosophy we followed, we're asked to level fund and then discuss at these meetings where we want to, what direction we want to go in. So,
It looked like, just moving down to trash and telephone, trash is up a little bit and telephone's up quite a bit.
Trash keeps going up and up.
Well,
That's
I have
just
no
noticed.
control over that with
yes.
waste management, that's their fell charges, all of their fees involved with every invoice, so, they come every 2 weeks and the dumpster's always full, we have 3 departments
Yep.
utilizing it, and we had the discussion last year about the highway department,
Possibly taking
but
over.
that never, because it was not cost effective for them, because they would be on overtime and scheduling and, going in that
And
direction.
there's not another vendor besides waste management probably that you could like get a quote from or see.
Oh,
where
I'm
they
sure
look.
there's
Yeah, I'm
tons
sure
of,
we
but,
can.
was Don handling the quotes for trash pickup for town?
I'm
was it-
not certain with all the departments, I don't know
I
how
want
many
to
departments.
ask
use
him if that's
dumpsters.
something possible, if he can do a contract with some company and.
That did all of the, I don't know how many
Instead of us.
departments have dumpsters, I know we
I
do.
don't,
I think it's
I think-
only you
Is
guys.
it just us?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we do have a lot of waste.
Well, I'll ask Don to see
Yeah.
if there's a way to come up with a better contract.
I
Get
know
some
there are
quotes from
several
some other-
contractors doing domestic around.
There's some smaller
Right.
places, yep.
But for
We
that,
could do that.
I don't know about that.
that dumpster's a good sized dumpster, so. But we'll do a little checking, but
Yep.
yeah, the price keeps going up, even home pickup is.
I know BP Trucking does waste disposal too, and the DPW uses them, maybe.
Well, talk to Joe too.
Yeah, we
Yep.
can maybe see something with that, coordinating.
And going down to telephone, as we receive, it takes away. Because Devon's, when we first went over to Devon's, they said they would take care of all our telephone bills. Okay, now that was just a promise to only a few of the towns in the 7 at Devon's. So as the Ambi Pro was being taken over by Devon's, they said, well, we're not taking everybody's phone bills over. We're gonna get rid of the 2 that we took, and it was Berlin and Bolton, the last 2 that came on. They were paying our telephone bill, and they said, we can't do it, we don't do it for everybody, so we're giving you your $5,000 bill back. So that's why that went up.
Who delivered that message?
Don knew about it.
Yes, that came in August.
Yeah,
Kind of knew,
that-
that kind of squashed the phone bill, kind of moving forward, we kind of knew that.
Yeah.
We were gonna
I'm
have to.
surprised they paid for it initially.
We were very surprised, but
They
there was
took everything over, you know,
I think that was in my first budget, as chief. I kind of threw that, it was, 5,000 to 7,000 came off the budget. But now it's come right back.
Not a whole phone bill, these are only specific lines.
Lines.
Right, these are our copper.
Plus, we've increased on our mobile bill, and I think Lorraine's got a good rundown of a few things, why it's gone up.
Oh, primarily with that, we have, where am I? What is that program we're part of now? With the phone. The Homeland Security, we're like,
For the, yes. Gets us into a tier that if the
It's
system.
called priority access.
Yes, if there's any emergencies and the system goes down, we get into the band that is still operating.
Oh,
Right,
like if
we're on the
there's some sort of
TSP.
disaster.
Right.
Yeah, Exactly,
Makes sense.
we're the first ones up on live, so
Right.
it's a flat fee for all our, it's a flat fee across the board. So, for the fire, police and EMS.
And that's baked into the telephone
Exactly,
line.
that was there, but the biggest pickup on it has been the add-on from Devon's, the 2 copper lines that we're now responsible for, which is our fire panel, elevator, and we have an emergency backup copper line in the event that our phone system goes down,
Yeah.
which is, the phone system is coordinated through Devon's, that's all theirs.
So are there any phones in the public safety building that aren't covered by this budget but are covered by a different budget somehow, like
No,
even
these are
your
the only.
office phones or?
All that goes through Fort Devens, of course, Neshoba, Regional Dispatch. They, Valley Communications, that's a whole IP network, that's all managed through Devens. We don't pay anything, it's all part of our assessment,
Okay,
so we don't have an individual billing
got
that we
it.
receive for that. These are the
And
only
what
2.
lines are in that?
Everything, we have all of our phone extensions,
Okay.
and extensions, phone extensions to email to voicemail. That's all.
I'm getting lost with this, so that's.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So here's a
Yeah.
really dumb question, but
Yeah.
like, let's say you're sitting in the public safety building and you call over to town hall.
Mhm.
Will it show up on the town hall, like, will they be able to see who you are because you're integrated, or it
They're
looks?
gonna say
yeah,
Neshoba, they're gonna say, it's gonna say Air or Devon, yeah, it's gonna say something,
I
dispatch.
called Don today, he didn't know who was
They
calling.
don't know who's
Okay.
calling. But when you
Sounds good.
call in, I know who you are,
Right,
of course, but going out, everything goes through the dispatch center,
okay,
yes.
all right.
And it's tracked through there.
And we've picked up a lot on the fire side too. They've asked for tablets and more mobile data terminals, so we've had to get air cards. I think we've picked up some
Yes,
extra
we-
cell
couple of
phones.
air-
So the
But we
the
were
bill
comfortable with
keeps going.
our budget with that, it was already included,
Mhm.
but this added more depth to it.
So mobile phones are in the building budget?
Because it's 3 departments, we're all wireless.
Well, it's not so much a bill, it's the public safety,
Yeah,
like umbrella budget. It's not just the building.
yeah. That includes our mobile data terminals, tablets, assigned cell phones for
I see.
investigations.
None of the individual departments have telephone line item. Okay,
No, it's just all in one.
okay.
It looks like the supplies requests and the diesel are, the diesel is, if I'm recalling, that's just an amount you have to keep there, you're not really sure from year to year
Well,
what you're
that
gonna use?
primarily is for the generator.
Yeah,
And we do fill that up upon need, and if there's no need, if that's if we lose total power for a long period of time, I'm gonna be running a diesel generator 24/7. It's a different grade of fuel, it's not really diesel, it's a different type of a grade that they run through a generator system. It's not something that they're running through the DPW trucks or anything, it's a different type. So I know we're jumping all over the place. So we covered the purchase of services, heating, electric, software, trash, telephone, supplies. Of course, the supply budget, sometimes you need
yeah.
one of these. Okay, that's telephone, supplies. And the supplies, I'll let you know here. That's primarily, a lot of that has to do with our water. We have no water bubblers or anything. So we have, let me just open up my supply summary. I can give you a quick description of the different items coming out of it. Here we are. I might have a few supply purchases through WB Mason if the custodial people just need a particular product. We like to use, it might sound simple, but antibacterial things, very necessary for the line of work that we do over there. We're constantly, the Purells, all those things, all three departments. It's like a little extra something they have in the custodial closet that they distribute throughout the building. But primarily it's water that you're gonna see, and that includes the relief water for the fire trucks. We use the same vendor, so it's controlled under there. So that budget to me is pretty decent. I don't foresee us spending. To date, as I have a $456 budget, and that's more than enough to get water, the 5-gallon water jugs to the rest of the end of the fiscal year. So that's a good one. Right there. And then of course we don't have miscellaneous, and I don't know if you had any other specific questions.
Should we be taking miscellaneous off the list?
I think it will drop off automatically. Yeah.
One more year.
Yes.
Let's get that actual on there.
And then
Next year
it
it's gone.
goes away. It messes me up too,
I know. Every year I'm like, oh,
especially when you pick the wrong line item for payment. That eats up, and that just goes out quickly.
Does anyone else have questions about this budget?
It's not strictly about the budget, but you said there were water leaks. Wasn't the roof on that a capital item either last year or this year?
Last year.
The fire department had their roof, but the sink in the women's locker room,
Okay.
a hose
Never
ran.
mind.
So it wasn't the roof.
Never mind.
And the other was a valve, so
Yeah.
nothing major.
Any other questions? Okay, so there's no change to the bottom. Based on our discussions tonight, it's still 198,391. Is that what you have?
Correct.
Okay.
And we're just gonna watch the heat.
The heat and the
To see
electric.
what type of, and that and the trash.
Yep. All right, so I would entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Save your best for last.
Oh, yes. Well, this may be the easiest one too.
And
So it's not really that bad.
I just want to say up front that, like, I know that a lot of the actual staffing and hiring decisions happen at the Board of Selectmen level, so we might be hearing some of this stuff for the first time. So I apologize if we seem like we're like asking more questions than we ought to be, but it's just, it seems like there's been a lot of new faces coming into the department, and I'm not up to speed totally. So.
I don't know who's working half the time.
That's scary.
But you got somebody last week, right? And then next is gonna be another. Yeah.
It could be, but we've
You
had.
shouldn't admit to that, by the way.
That's cute.
No. We have 10 reserves right now. We have a chief, a lieutenant, 3 sergeants, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 patrolmen. So we have an organizational chart for everybody.
And the roster.
with names,
Oh,
so you've got a
fantastic.
nice little thing to,
I'll go this
to
way.
peek at.
And it's in
This is just our current roster as to who's who. I'll give you that one.
So is this current and also for the proposed, or this is what's in place right now?
This is what's in place now.
Okay.
Yep.
My roster
There you go.
is.
We just had 2 officers leave, I just rehired 1.
Yep.
And,
Yeah, one.
and
Fine. There you
Um,
go, and that's that one.
I need to hire 1 more to be full staffed. And I do have 1 officer that's been IOD for 1 year and 3 months, I think it's been. So he's still injured.
Yep.
And we don't have a date when he's coming back at this point.
I did put a new hiring.
New hire,
process,
yes.
yeah, So that's on the last one.
So other than 1 officer on there, it's up to date on how many positions there are
Okay.
for our officers.
And what we budget for.
So if you saw the numbers, there's pretty much 2 reasons why the budget went up. One is the wages, and that's mainly because of, the contract and what they negotiated. Now, when they were negotiating the contract, it took them a couple of years. They were 2 years into the new contract, and it's still not signed. So we're still operating kind of on
Without a
an
contract.
MOU from the previous contract. So our wages never increased as we went.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see a big bump because they did get a big raise and they added on a new position. It's an incentive. So after 3 years of full-time service with no issues, they go up another percentage on their pay. So I think that's why you'll see a lot of different pay codes. Some are getting step increases, but there's a senior patrolman
Yep.
and it's also for the sergeants, so they got the same. Plus, the reserves got the same thing.
So just say again what the provision is. It's every 3 years, assuming there's been no, I'm sure there's some sort of standard, right, that has to be met. Then after every 3 years, there's a 1% increase.
Well, not a 1%. So after your 3 years, so if you're on board for 3 years full-time,
Yep.
you get bumped up to a different percentage. And Lorraine has
Oh, okay.
the wage chart. So the senior patrolman is,
85% of a senior officer would be
Right,
the reserve.
yeah, and just for senior, step 5 patrolman is 2960. They will bump up to 3108 if they qualify for that senior
The
patrolman.
contract.
So that's a good $1.50.
Yeah.
So there's been a considerable spike in the contractual wages
Okay.
that are mainly why you see it so high.
That's a helpful explanation. So I just want to make sure that when I'm looking at the FY21 request, that it seems like it's kind of in one fell swoop, taking into account a lot of the contractual developments.
Well, no, that's out of contract. It won't, because your contract ends this June.
Yes, they'll be going into a new contract,
This will
which,
be a new so this is just the old contract. Well, the current contract changes.
so I don't know what,
There may not be, we don't know.
right. So they'll go in and negotiate for a new 3-year contract. Their wage will go up again.
Yep.
If they get a percentage, if they do 1, 2, or 3%, that will adjust this price,
Well,
which
hopefully
we don't
the compensation-
know.
So the
that
new
will adjust
contract
that
will
way.
affect these prices,
Yes,
and they may or may not go up,
yes.
but one.
They will, I would say they probably will.
They're definitely going up. I mean, it's wages, they always,
You,
they're not gonna go down.
No, it sounded like you need some clarification. The current contract, which only got agreed, it's a 3-year contract that ends this June 30th, but it only got agreed to a couple of months ago.
Right. Yeah.
So we're gonna start so what you have in your budget is the current contract extended into fiscal year '21, but as of July 1st, we should have a new contract. We have not even started discussing with the union yet.
So there will be retro pay.
Right,
All right, so-
but that's, there's another line item for that somewhere.
right. Well,
Don had a retro in the FY '20. I think he had 60,000.
Yeah.
And he probably used about 45 of it to take care of what we owed him to get up to date on this.
Right.
Yeah, that should be for fire, police, and DPW.
Right.
So, cool.
Okay, I get, yeah. Well, one of the things
That's
I'm thinking
something
about
I
is,
like
because
that
there's also been those times when we have like a separate article put on the warrant for retro.
Right.
So,
Don's line item takes care of that.
So that's
Okay.
what we were trying to
Right.
avoid,
to
is
avoid,
that
Yeah, have a
having somebody
compensation line.
vote it down when it's
Right.
contractual.
We won't know that till FY '22.
Pardon me?
Honestly.
yeah,
It's gonna take a year to negotiate that contract.
Compensation reserve.
Well,
Right.
that'll be better than this last one, it's just a year.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
That's if,
Speculation,
that's
yes.
if it's just.
If it's just for this
It's
year.
easier when you have two and it's tough.
so, so we'll probably need to vote on this number as it is, because
You won't know.
you won't
it.
know until.
Right.
Exactly.
All right,
So that pretty much described the first 4 items.
now, before we move on.
Okay.
So, just, I really like the way this is laid out, so thank you for bringing that. So, is this this size of the force is what you think is gonna be stable for a few years? Are you anticipating any growth or?
The only growth that I would like to someday address is a highway safety officer.
Oh, right.
So it's a traffic officer.
Yeah.
So they would be 40 hours a week, Monday to Friday, or whatever we came up with. But that's a considerable bump up. 80,000 would
Yeah.
bump up to the thing right now. So because of the current state, there was no way I could bring that forward.
Okay.
But there would be some relief in terms of,
Overtime.
additional tickets being issued and citations potentially and that kind of stuff.
No relief. It would cause quite a bit more work on our end, because now the court officer is doing more work,
Oh, yeah,
records requests, there's a lot more work involved. So, if we do it, I've got to get everybody on board. It's probably going to be a bump up in overtime. It's going to be a considerable increase.
Okay.
And then at this time, 117 is the way it is. Hopefully this new light and the reconstruction will kind of help things out a little bit.
Now, are you also gonna be enforcing the new hands-free driving stuff February 1st, or what's the?
It's the law.
Yes.
It's February 1, right?
Might be 23rd. I don't know if it was February 1st.
I don't have.
You're
the,
going to the last day?
It could be, but there's a 30-day grace period
Yeah.
that we can stop you, but we can't write you a ticket.
That should be bringing in some revenue. I see people on their phones all the time.
All day long, yeah.
But it's okay in the car, like if you're talking on your Bluetooth, that's okay.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, as long as your hands free, yeah.
Hands free.
Like the guy who was today who went past me while he was,
Oh, yeah.
But he might have been looking at his GPS.
get away from me.
It'll help. Another big thing. It's like the seatbelts, hopefully this seatbelt law will come
Yeah.
around, so we can stop people if they're not wearing them.
All right, so unless anyone else has questions about the wages stuff, I'm ready to move below the line. So purchase of services request is down.
That is down. I think that was mainly because of sponsoring.
Yes, I'm sorry, I
Yep.
don't have my sheet out yet. Unless I
So
forgot it. Oh, maybe
We're
I
sending
shared it.
officers to the academy and bringing them up through the ranks, but
That's
Due
the
to-
training line?
the purchase of services.
Oh, okay.
But we've kind of had a redirection because of some recent events. And it's probably not going to be sponsoring people anymore.
Okay, okay.
There's nothing in the purchase of services line, right?
3,000.
Hired
Oh,
services.
I'm sorry.
It is why you do this.
It's called hired services.
Looking at this and saying.
I'm sorry. It is hired services.
Thank you, phew. Thought it was me.
Will 5,200 come off soon?
Let me help you with that.
They're not sure.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's blank.
There you go. Keep that one off. Then I won't make that mistake again.
Yeah, it's weird, because you guys, you're the only department that doesn't have, that's kind of a standard, so I didn't even think about it.
We had that when we were at Houghton Building. Not anymore.
Because it's now all in the public safety building budget.
Yes, everything was transferred.
All right, so you think 5201 will eventually zero out?
Well, 5,200.
5,200, just get rid of that.
Oh, no, I
That's
know, but I
why.
meant after
5201
your
hired
comment about
services.
the academy stuff.
We took 4,000 out,
Okay.
so it would have been 3,000.
We
Okay.
still have to, we still have fees, instructor fees, if we bring someone in, we have to pay someone, for, if you have a hired services. We do utilize.
Okay.
And that's separate from training.
Yes.
Correct.
Just want to point out that it looks like your historical spend on training has been pretty close to 3,000 exactly.
Well, we try to
Yeah.
keep it there.
Yeah, we just shut it off
We
as
try
soon
to
as we
use
get to
the
that.
municipal police training at no cost, just for our backup wages. Those are for those specialized seminars or specialized training that individual officers require for their job function.
Okay. And how about lockup?
Of course, that's the prisoner lock, that's a variable, we don't know how many prisoners we're gonna have in, we have to feed them. We have to clean the cell, sometimes we have hazmat issues after lockup, there's a major cleanup, could be in the cruisers too. So, things of that nature. So we've always had that budget
Yep.
number, and we just left it, we just level funded
Yep.
for that reason.
Okay. Office supplies.
We have two supply, we have a police supply and an office supply, they're two separate, so.
So on our thing, it's listed as office supplies and then firearms dash supplies.
All right, we have a 5,400 account, which is our police operations supplies, and then we have the office supplies, which is 5,420.
Okay, so let's talk about 54. Yeah, we have 5,400 down
Down below,
in the
yes.
cruiser.
Down with the police.
But let's talk about 5420.
It's my search, okay. That's my bad.
Oh,
Wait a minute, okay.
I know.
Yeah.
So where are we?
Yeah, so
Office supplies?
5420 office supplies.
5420.
Office supplies is 50,
Yeah.
50. Am I
No,
wrong?
office supplies is
No,
5420.
Okay, sorry.
For it.
Oh, you look at firearms, supplies.
Yeah,
and-
50,
Yes,
well, yeah,
thank you.
line item 5420 is 5250.
Very confusing.
So when I look at what you've spent, and this is again through the end of December for office supplies, it looks to me like you will probably spend the 5250.
Yes.
So,
We always do.
I know there have been years when you've spent less than that, but it seems like this is a year that you're on track to.
Yeah, we're pretty good about making sure we buy what we need,
Yeah.
nothing more. We don't have closets full of supplies waiting to get used, so.
Firearm supplies,
Mhm.
line 5460. Remind us again what's included in that.
Ammunition for, we have to have ammunition for qualifications. We need to replace or upgrade any weapons that we may have.
Tasers.
Of course, the taser
Tasers, yep.
supplies are included. We're midway through. We haven't done a armory purchase yet. That would be for, we have qualifications coming up in the spring where we need to buy literally
Thousands
thousands of
ammunition, yeah.
bullets. If they do, it's mandatory, they have to qualify with their weapon. So, we haven't,
that'd be good.
we
Yeah.
haven't changed that at all. We had a couple of taser purchases over the years, but we're pretty much level funded, I don't see any changes in that,
Okay.
any new projects or anything
Nope,
like that.
yep, just
With the
standard,
armors.
yep.
Uniforms,
Those are contractual. And right now, let me get my summary sheet. And we're pretty much down to, we did all of our uniform allowances up to January. And right now I have around 2,600 left. after the allowance disbursements, but we have 2 new officers coming on board. So we're gonna spend that out just to, get them in their standard equipment.
So am I correct though that it is a $1,000 reduction in your request from last year's budget?
Right, we had extra money in there because of the officer in the academy. We had to outfit specialized, uniforms that were required for the academy.
Okay.
So we didn't need that this go around.
Okay.
We weren't anticipating an academy recruit.
Out-of-state travel.
That primarily was for the chiefs' conferences. Chief Alfano, he would go out of state and use it occasionally, but not very often. But that's up to the chief whether or not he wants to travel out of state to do any specialized training. So we haven't done.
We always kept it in there.
We used to be up there. It's gone down. It used to be 2,500, then it was down to 2,000, 15. It's never been used. So across the years.
Well, I'll defer to you on that. I mean, it's one of those things where I think it's valuable for you to be able to go if there's something you want to go to, but if it's something we're not using, we can also consider.
I think that also, it leaves it there just in case, if not just me, but if another officer has to go out,
maybe, or-
exactly, for any kind of training.
For whatever we had to pay for a hotel or something.
Exactly. So we're at such a small amount.
Which is true. That's a good point.
Dues and subscriptions. What's covered in there?
I'm looking. We pretty much stays. Well, presently, you're going to see a lot of our memberships and dues for the officers, all officers, including the chief and the lieutenant. We have armorers fees because we have 4 armorers. We have
Firearms instructors.
Firearms instructors.
RAD.
We have our RAD systems.
What's RAD?
That's our
Rape, aggression, defense.
Oh, okay. Oh.
systems. We have the instructors. We have to recertify them every year. It's pretty much memberships, dues, what is it?
Yeah.
For purchasing the state contracts for our
Oh,
cruisers
yes, yep.
and all of our police equipment. It's all under state bid. We have to be part of those protocols. So we
Yeah.
have to pay an annual fee to the Plymouth County
Mm-hmm.
Sheriff's Association,
Worcester,
the
Boston.
Council, Boston Police Department Council, so that we can get those bidded, rates on purchases. That's pretty much it.
I think we talked about this in a prior year, but training on interacting with folks with mental health issues, like de-escalation stuff, that would be something
That
that
would
you
be
do
under,
hired services?
it could be hired services.
If we
that
brought
would
somebody
bring
in
someone
to
or if we
do a training.
sent an officer out to training, would come under the training budget. That we
Okay.
would pay a fee for them to go to a specialized seminar.
If they went out, and if you brought somebody in, it would be like a hired service? Or
Correct.
it might also be training, or is training typically when people go out, and hired services when you bring somebody into the department?
Correct, you got that right. And then, of course, back to dues and subscriptions. Subscriptions, again, every year I do an annual purchase through law enforcement management, would be for the legal updates for motor vehicle law, juvenile law, incident. So that's an annual thing, and that's another thing that we'll do. They usually rewrite them, they come available like in March.
And they're like manuals that you get?
Absolutely, and we use them
Carry
because
it
the laws
around, so-
change.
Yeah, so
So-
everybody gets one?
No, we actually have them, we'll buy them, depending on the department, we'll keep one for the officers in the old dispatch, then we have on the second floor where the command is, so at least they're at a hand's reach.
Okay.
If you need to do research on anything that you're.
2 or 3 sets.
Yeah, usually, so that's pretty much what's gonna fall under that line item.
Miscellaneous is gonna fall off?
Yep.
And then bulletproof vests.
Right. Presently, we've been doing pretty well with the reimbursement through the federal government.
Yeah.
Right now, we're still pending a big, pending a payment. Reimbursement on the grant. But, we kept it, sometimes, with that, we even talked about that we do need to buy ballistic items that are not part of or fall under the federal guidelines. It's not a vest, it could be a ballistic shield, we were talking about ballistic helmets. So things of that nature, we would put under the bulletproof vest. Because when I'll make bulletproof vest purchases through our vendor based upon the guidelines through the, for the Bureau of Justice, and then prior to that, I've already been approved a certain amount of money that I can apply those purchases towards. And they'll allot up 50% of the purchase will come out of the federal government, they'll reimburse the town. Once they're reimbursed, then I can submit the second 50% to the state, the Commonwealth, and they'll pick up the tab. So it's one of those open accounts that doesn't affect this budget. However, we would like to keep something in that Bulletproof Vest line item for those specific
Yeah.
supplies for the officers for protection. They're specialized,
sense.
yes, so. We did come down, it was a little higher. I had it at 3,850 in fiscal year 19.
Right. And we
That
dropped
was
it.
because we didn't qualify for money that particular year through the feds for, I have to, like, every 5 years is a renewal for a new vest. So they do degrade, the armor may not, but other materials within the armor do. So they have to be, they go through a recycle of every 5 years. Right. And they're measured and they're specific to that officer. It's not something you can buy 50 of, have them in the closet and hand them out. They're
Like,
fitted
fitted.
specifically.
Oh, yes.
Is there enough of ballistics that we should slash ballistics on that line, or we've done it?
If you wanna call it
Firearm
something-
supplies.
If you want to call it something else, I know what
Not
it's
for me,
for.
I know what it is, but I'm wondering if
For future,
anyone who reads
we
the,
could call it ballistic. Next year, we may not
Not
ask
really.
for it, but I know that we were looking at it for this fiscal year, moving forward. So I think maybe we will be, you know.
Looking for what?
For equipment, we've already, that's why it's there. We haven't made any purchases yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's not specifically for vests, it's for other.
So that bulletproof vest could be other pieces of equipment in
Right,
that one?
yes,
the ballistics.
ballistics, yeah.
That's one thing
It's
we know.
protection.
Protection, probably.
A better term.
That's a good one.
the clearer description, but I don't know.
Nanashka, do you have any feelings about that? No.
If it were me, I'd roll it all up in firearms and supplies. I'm always
Yeah,
one for
she's always
rolling up.
trying-
Yeah, I'm always
You're
trying to
lying.
get you
Yeah.
condensed instead of, but, I mean, I'll call it whatever you guys want. I don't care.
If you want to do that and keep it in there.
You can always
Track
itemize
it.
what you spend on it at the end of the year, so it isn't.
We
a
do by
step-
vendor,
yeah.
we do
Yeah.
itemize specifically to see what we're spending with.
Because when you look at this, your actual was high in fiscal 17, but very low in the subsequent 2 years.
You're talking about the bulletproof vest?
Yeah.
That is correct, because we didn't have funding through the federal government to.
No, I get that part, but my point is it fluctuates so much, maybe just better to put it up with the,
5460 firearms dash supplies.
And
I mean,
or those supplies just pertaining to firearms.
everything that we're talking about pertains to firearms.
Yeah, but what, if she wants to combine,
This
Yes,
is safety.
yes.
This is safety, I
Yes.
think,
You wanna
it's
keep it
different.
separate?
I'm with you, Joe.
I don't, I'm
I
happy
I
with
like
it.
to know,
Just
I would
the way
call
it
it
is.
protection or
Which is
Bulletproof
fine,
vest.
you know, we have,
Not protection.
it's like tasers and bullets and everything else we buy, we could be like.
I'm just,
I see why that.
I want to leave it the way it is.
Yeah, let's
for now.
just let it
leave it.
stay.
It's actually, I think it's a good point to leave it separate at this time, to spend it on.
So when you buy
Specific.
tasers, that goes into firearms and
Yes,
supplies,
ma'am.
okay?
Okay.
And I'm having trouble with the descriptions and what actually is in
I
there,
am too.
maybe I'm being obsessive, but.
No, I am. Well, because supplies, you don't, I don't know,
Anyway, we'll think about it.
associated
about it.
with protection.
when you get into firearms, you've got targets. You've got paperback, you got wood you gotta buy, metal stands, there's all kinds of other stuff associated with, yes, exactly.
Well, nobody's asked, so they think it's bulletproof vest, so be it, I guess.
All right, let's move on to the cruiser stuff.
Cruiser repair, level funded there. I think we level funded all the items.
Yeah.
Um, So, the repairs line historically has fluctuated a bit. This year seems like it's gonna be, so far, not such a terrible year, but 25,000 seems like it's within the range of what you could expect. And let me see. So I had a question about how those 4 items, whether they would be affected at all by the cruiser purchase proposal, which
Which 4 items?
sorry, these 4 that are clumped together,
Oh, okay, I just,
whether that would change if, we were to buy another Ford F-150. I don't even know if that's what you're proposing, but like, would we expect that those numbers would have to increase because tires might be more expensive, repairs, I mean, I just don't.
To sit just at ease, we're not gonna look at another F-150 right now.
Okay.
One is probably gonna be sufficient to the fleet, to get material around barricades, and that pickup has been a godsend. It's been great going out and picking up stuff that we may not be able to get into the cruiser. So it saves us on time. What we're looking at is another Explorer Police Interceptor. Now, Ford redesigned, of course, and this is how they get you, and this is why it's so expensive. They now have a hybrid police-rated, pursuit-rated cruiser. So that's right there. I think by paying so much for what we have, and I've got a little PowerPoint to show you all the price points, we may have a chance of saving on fuel, because now I've got a battery and a gas.
I have a hybrid.
Yes.
And if you don't use it in the city, you don't save any hardly at all. Because the way a hybrid works
Yeah.
is that when you stop and start, stop and start, stop and start, it's all battery. But if you're just going, it's fuel.
Yeah, but that's what we do all day. We
Stop,
go,
stop,
we
stop.
sit for an hour, do radar. I think this is gonna be a huge savings.
I think it will be.
Yeah.
Well, I want to give you a chance to share.
Yes, I did a nice.
I get 31, that's still
Do
pretty
you have
good.
extra copies for this one?
But
You
you
could borrow one of ours.
I'll see how many I got. I made 8, so let's see, there's a whole lot of people here today.
We can share too.
Okay. No, because this is brand new.
Oh, okay.
So there's no pursuit rated hybrids out there.
Okay, so this is new to the market, period.
This is brand new to the
Nobody has
market.
any experience with it.
So that's part of why this is now more money. They've increased it considerably, but now you're gonna have the option of a battery and a gas, pairing off to each other. So, page 1 is just the past history of the base price of the V6 all-wheel drive Ford Interceptor. So in 2016, it was 28,000. 17, we went down a little bit to 27,900. 2018, we're back up to 28,800. And now we get into the non-hybrid and the hybrid. Now you can see just the 2019's gone up $5,000 to $33,000 just for the base model. And then with the hybrid, we go up another $4,000.
So this is the car you would.
The one I'm
considering
recommending.
for this fiscal year?
Yes, the hybrid.
The current year?
Yes,
219.
No,
well,
we're in 2020.
when I got the quotes, it was a 2019 quote,
Okay.
so that's why I've got that there.
Okay.
But this is for FY '21.
Okay, got it, check.
Yes. All right. So that kind of just shows you the base price, and everything on this vehicle has been redesigned, re-engineered, so I can't transfer anything from one car to another. Of course. And Dan, last year, did a great job using the money he had, because if he wouldn't have had all the lights and stuff that he has on it now, because he actually got a free light bar out of this whole thing. So that's like $2,000 that, from his, connections. It was all up and up. It was the Wayland representative that he deals with quite a bit. It was more of a test of the light bar, so we got to test it and report back to him. So the next page just gives you an outline of the hybrid to a powertrain. Simply, our vehicles idle more than they're out driving around. So if the car shuts off and the lights are on, when we get to a scene or we're stopping cars or we're doing stuff, the engine stops. So now we're not using any more gas. The engine's gonna turn on when the battery gets too low. So it's just gonna keep recharging itself.
Are you, I know you're gonna go through this whole thing, but are you aware of any, this is brand new, so it's
Brand
not
new.
in line with any, it's not in service with any local departments that you're.
No one else has this. This is gonna be brand new.
Okay.
I did talk to the service manager at MHQ. He backed this 100%. He said with all the engineering and all their other hybrids that they have, this is gonna be top-notch from the beginning.
Mhm.
So like a lot of people won't buy a first-year model, he said, don't worry about that. This is gonna be solid.
That was gonna be my comment. I don't know a lot about cars, and so I just stay away from the first year anything comes out.
And it's gonna be under warranty, so, they'll fix whatever.
Yeah, but if
falls
it's,
apart.
Fixing it means it's in the shop. and not-
yeah,
Well,
not on the road, yeah.
The first year Ford has developed the hybrid, so we have,
Right.
this is just the police. that
So
just
is there a hybrid,
Yeah.
base model that's not, pursuit rated? I assume this is just the production model that's had some, changes made to it, no?
Yeah, I do not know if they have a hybrid in their private, public.
Okay,
But they've made this specifically for the police, so I'm sure this is gonna be a little bit better than those public environments.
That's what the rating.
So as you go through it, obviously, there's potential fuel savings. Now, and there's actually a link that has a calculator, and as you go through my charts and my pages, the savings, and if you go to, I think it's like the last 2 pages. If you drive anywhere from 10 to 20,000 miles per year, if the car's driven one shift, I'm gonna save possibly $1,700. If it drives 20,000, I could save 2,000 miles on gas. So there's obviously a potential of saving money, and as the fleet keeps turning over a car every year, I can now, just about in 7 years, have a fleet of all hybrids. And this is, we've never had this opportunity to go green with any of our cruiser.
Yeah, you reduce your carbon footprint a little bit, so.
So that's the gallons of fuel?
No, okay, so you've got 275 per gallon, so that's the savings for one shift, and then next to it is the carbon. No, go to the last 2 pages savings. So actually, that's the carbon, the CO2 amount of pounds that they'll save and keep
Oh,
from
so
getting
it's
into
about a
the.
wash when it comes to the price increase of a car, from even the base model, but it's gonna be,
Right, so we should save enough to cover what we're gonna be spending extra into this package, pretty much.
Do you know whether there are any like state grants or incentives because it is, I know like we have, okay.
No, because then every police department would want one. So no.
Because the state has just reinstated the incentive for individuals to buy more fuel.
Hybrid?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, not in municipality. I've never seen
No, probably
anything associated to that.
I thought this was great,
yeah.
very helpful, yeah.
And go to the link and you can play with the numbers, but I think overall, we now have an opportunity to at least make a mark on our carbon footprint. Hopefully save some money down the line. We might pay it out front, but hopefully in the long run, it'll work
So
out.
the cruiser purchase you have in here is if we were to buy the hybrid.
Yes, it is.
And it fully outfitted.
Right. And if we go to the non-hybrid, then we would just knock off approximately 3,500.
Okay.
We work that through our equipment line.
Right, that's what, but I was hoping.
So
that-
basically, oh, go ahead.
Graphics. Mhm.
No, I just was clear, making it clear that when you said that's everything, no, it's not. Because decals have to be put on, but I know you know that, but I'm not sure.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
So, yeah, the graphics package is in that price.
Yeah.
Oh,
For that one,
Yep.
right. However, if we had to do it to another cruiser,
Yeah, that would be.
repurpose, that comes out
that-
of equipment.
Yes.
That's a whole separate.
So if we, just so that I understand, if we were to recommend the non-hybrid, it would basically drop from 53,750 down to roughly 50.
Approximately, yes. 3,500 to 37.
When you have increased fuel costs.
Right.
No, that wouldn't be saving, yes, that wouldn't be saving on fuel.
That's what I said, it's kind of a
I mean,
wash.
two shifts a day, you pay the delta
Yeah.
the first year.
Chief, did you get a new car with the 40,000 allocated for this year?
Yep, we did. Yep.
And so there's a $10,000 increase between what we're buying this year and what we could get for next year?
Yes, the base price has gone up, and
Yep.
plus Dan saved us some money on the
Oh,
last
okay.
purchase.
All right.
We were trying to beg, borrow, and steal to come up with a good price. So
Okay.
he knew what he was getting into when we had that price.
If we could return for a moment to gas or cruiser. I noticed the last 3 actual years are considerably above the 14,000 some
That's
odd.
what
Is there some reason that number requested isn't more than 14,000?
Well, I think we kept it at 14 just because we're usually told, go in at that price. Because prices go up, they go down, we really have no control over it. But I think it's just always been agreed that we always were going in at 14.
Well, maybe we should recalibrate that so it's more realistic. We know prices have gone up.
Yeah, but they might not be, I mean, at least on this hybrid, they might.
We might save money.
Right, but that's one car out of.
That's one car out of what?
You know, as time goes on, you-
But the police budget is going up over 8%, so
Yeah.
just be mindful when you're adding.
Well, you're gonna
You've been
spend the money
covering
one
it,
way or
right?
the other.
I mean, you
It's
haven't
just
come to
whether
us
it's
for
in the
money
budget or
to pay.
a release at the end of the
We
year.
look at the bottom line, no,
Right.
because we were
You're
able
finding
to.
it somewhere else, so that's why I wouldn't
On the-
increase
in
it.
the
What's the run rate on that now?
Do you have the current
For the gas
expenditures?
Oh, for gas?
86% spent,
Thank you.
We're halfway through the year.
Wait, you have as of December or as of the end of?
December.
86% overall, or just gas budget?
Just the
Just
gas.
cash.
But the department as a whole is 53%,
Right.
so that's, I don't wanna add
I don't
anything else to
either.
the,
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, they're covering it, but, and it's hard as it
Well,
figure
no,
out from where, but.
if their overall
somehow.
budget's at 53, I mean, gas is but a small piece of that, and they're at 85% of the gas, so they're gonna be over.
no, I know they're gonna be over on the
Yeah.
gas,
Yeah.
Yeah, you-
but I
But for
don't,
total, for 19, they were not over.
right.
they didn't have to come to us
Right.
for.
So they'll
Close
get,
to total.
perhaps they'll get the money from another line item.
Right, for this year.
which I
We've
don't
always
know.
looked at it that way,
Yeah.
starting in March to June, to see where we're gonna play out to June 30th, as to whether or not we have to visit you.
Yep.
And request for transfer.
Well, let's see what happens, and then we can revisit it this time next year.
I assume one of the cruisers that's currently in use will get retired, moved to some other activity.
Yes, yes. Well, once I get a new one, I either auction it off or one of the other departments, and actually the fire department's already asked for my next car that comes off.
Yeah. I know last year there were
Several.
3 or 4 different departments.
Lining up for it.
For your old one.
Yes, yes. So the fire department got the last one.
Yeah,
And then
EMTs, yeah.
Joe wants another one because he's, sure, I'm not Joe, Jeff. So he's talking about a paramedic unit. So he may need a vehicle to drive. He's gonna use the Tahoe for that, and then he needs another vehicle.
What's the mileage on these things that you rotated them through?
Right now, I think we've got one that's 120,000. So we get into the 100,000. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I get them with the highest mileage, and I just keep, because I don't drive as much.
Well, we do maintain the fleet, that's why we extend them.
I have no other questions, unless other people do.
I'm waiting for the all-electric police cars to come on.
I don't know, I think it is good.
Well, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen, yep, and we'll just have the electric plug in.
If you plug them in.
Yep.
Go right to Walmart. You don't have to put them on, no.
Paneras, yeah, we'll go over there.
Right.
We go to Maynard.
Yeah.
I move we approve the budget as described.
So moved.
All right.
Terrific.
For just a total of $1,449,876.53.
Yes.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you, yeah, you guys come in with really good
Thank you.
information.
Thank you for approving us.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Yes.
This
And
is
it's the
great.
hardest part. You just breeze right through it well. You can't quit ever.
Oh, I don't plan on it.
I mean, the
That was
marketing
the
with
record,
this,
we were
like,
here
the,
40,
it's
like
good for
40
the
minutes.
earth, and it's very, very smart.
That's right out of the brochure, babe.
Yeah, I could feel, I'm like, oh, that's
I can
working.
see marketing speak a mile away,
Right.
having written it.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
That's good, thank you.
We get to the link.
Yeah, so
I
that's
think
it.
we're all good.
I have a couple things I want to discuss, but yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Good to see you. All right, thank you. Thanks, good night.
Thank you, it's always a pleasure.
So, just quickly, I wanted to flag, next Tuesday, we're supposed to be meeting with the fire department. But I was wondering, he has some meetings that he needs to have at the fire department, like shortly after 7. So I didn't know if there's any way that we could possibly start, like, at 6 and take him first. Could you do that? Yeah, next Tuesday, start at 6. And as long as we have a quorum, if you had to come a little later, that'd be okay. I just want, I think we're gonna need more than a half hour to get through all of his material.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
He's got a lot of information. So I'd like to schedule him right at 6, and then when he has to leave, he can leave, but I can be here, you
I
can
can
be
be
here, you can be here. So it sounds like we'd at least have 5, and then.
All right,
Okay.
I can probably be here, I may come in a little late.
All right,
So 6 on the 28th.
6 on the 28th. And then the other thing, looking ahead, February 18th is school vacation week, and that is when we had planned to meet with Minuteman and Neshoba. But Jenny Jacobson is confirming whether they're available because they might be on vacation. So I'll let you know about that. And then Tuesday, February 25th, we're gonna take that entire thing and move it to Wednesday, the 26th. But I'll email you about that later. Was there anything else that people had to raise?
Let's schedule that far ahead.
Well, we're, like, I gave the town secretary, like, an idea of where we'd like to be, and she calls a few weeks in advance and nail things down. All right, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, good night.